It's Friday, TGIF. It's the 18th day of the month, 2025. This podcast brought to you by the Advocates Injury Attorneys. If you've been injured in an accident, don't face it alone. Get an experienced local Wyoming attorney on your side. Free consultations at WyomingAdvocates.com or call 307-800-1952. You deserve an advocate. Well, the elk is looking up, checking out the weather. And, well, we should. We got a small monsoonal plume coming our way. This will give us a general increase in thunderstorm coverage. Got my fingers and toes crossed that for those of you in western Colorado, western Wyoming, and parts of Utah and New Mexico can get some badly needed rain. There is moisture available for rain-producing thunderstorms, but lately they've just been starting fires with a lot of lightning strikes. A general warming trend after unseasonably cool weather this week will head into the weekend and next week. On Wednesday, you know that Rapid City had a high of only 56 degrees? Quite remarkable, that cold front, but now it's exiting the region. There's some interesting things to watch next week, especially the Front Range and adjacent plains towards the middle of next week, and we'll show you why we're kind of keeping a close eye on things. Yesterday, we did see the clouds thin out, but they hung low as moisture still behind that cold front hung around, but did make for a beautiful sunset with some virga there and some weak showers around the Casper area. Then a great shot there from Grand Teton National Park. As we look at the drought monitor, wanted to spend a little bit of time on this to kind of highlight what's going on, because one thing that will drive you crazy, and I know it's driving some people crazy, is that precipitation never falls evenly in the Intermountain West and the adjacent high plains. You have winners, you have losers, and a lot of times, sometimes you just seem like you can't catch a break when it comes to rain. But the latest drought monitor shows several things, and a lot of times to really understand the current situation is to go back in time a little bit. But generally speaking, since spring, there has been really big improvements right here. I mean, really big improvements in drought conditions. But along and west of the Continental Divide, it's been a different story. And if you notice, there's this bridge, this peninsula of dryness that is sticking out of east central Wyoming into Nebraska's panhandle and into central areas of South Dakota, where drought conditions still are kind of hanging on tough, and then the western slope as well. So let's go back in time. This is May 6th. This is when we went through March and April with very, very unimpressive precipitation in the region. Then things really turned the corner beginning the month of May and certainly into June and into early July in some areas. But this area I want to show you right here, we'll focus on first. We had talked earlier in videos that droughts are like puddles. The droughts tend to shrink along the edges, and then the last area to get out of the drought is in the middle of the puddle. And this really, that example I gave you is really showing up here when we kind of look especially at this area here, where the last area to get, or hopefully to get precipitation, is going to be developing. So this is for early May. You can see western slope, western areas of Wyoming dry, but as you'll see in a minute, drier now. If we go and take a look at where we are now with the latest drought monitor, you can see there's been big improvements here, but western Wyoming and western Colorado have seen drought conditions worsen while they got a whole lot better right here. But notice this little patch right here in Platte County, Wyoming, and northeastern Albany County, along the Laramie River, then part of the North Platte system. That is the middle, okay? That's the middle of the puddle, kind of right here. And the middle of that puddle is this not getting the precipitation that other areas had, like southeastern Wyoming, the Front Range of Colorado, and then, of course, the wet areas of northeastern Wyoming since spring in many locations. Then the western slope has gotten conditions, the drought conditions, if you look at the change in the last 10 weeks, the green and the blue areas show where the rain has really returned and drought conditions have really improved. The yellow shows where drought conditions have gotten worse. So it's a hodgepodge across the Intermountain West. And then you have islands. You end up with islands, like there's a little island here. There's that island right here in Platte County. Rain never has and never will fall evenly where everybody gets into the action. There's always winners and losers in the casino of precipitation that we live in. Satellite photos that we have right now this morning show that the cooler, moist air with that cold front has advanced into the plains. You can look really carefully. You can see that deeper moisture plume right there, and it really shows up. There it is, 2 areas of subtropical moisture kind of coming up from the south here. Then there's this arch right here. And this arch is where the thunderstorms will be most active this afternoon, but also an area right here, slowly moving to the north and then to the northeast as we progress through the day today. And the precipitable water is impressive. So we're well over 100% of average. Then there's that deeper axis right here. If you're underneath this axis, there is the likelihood of some really good rain-producing showers and thunderstorms, really anywhere in the boundary that I've drawn right here and right here. And you can really see that in the storm, go back here to the Storm Prediction Center of where they think the most active and strongest thunderstorms will end up by late afternoon and evening. And it's right along this axis. That's where that moisture plume will be by later today, along with the stronger daytime heating. Tomorrow, it's more along and aligned the Front Range and then out onto the eastern plains. So today and tomorrow, there's going to be a fair amount of subtropical moisture and thunderstorm activity. By Sunday, there's a punch of drier air coming in, and then we see the moisture that's deeper for the thunderstorms. That'll be more out into the plains. Let's step through the next 3 days, today through Sunday, in terms of thunderstorms. So here's where the thunderstorm action is going to be most likely today, and where some of these thunderstorms are potentially going to be strong in some locations. They'll continue into the evening and nighttime hours. On Saturday, you can see that arch now is more east. There'll be mountain thunderstorms still on the backside of it in the middle here. And then as we get into the day on Sunday, there's that bigger push east out into the plains. So really it's today and Saturday where thunderstorms will be most active, more out into the plains on Sunday, lesser thunderstorm activity here during the day Sunday. There'll be a few, but today and tomorrow is when most of the action will be. Now down here, there's still moisture, so that will still keep showers and thunderstorms going. Far eastern Colorado, western areas of Kansas as well, you'll still be into the mix. Temperature-wise, if we look at temperatures from today through the middle of next week, you can still see the coolness in the north. We're starting to see this heat build that we talked about yesterday in the Central Plains as that high pressure ridge gets established. But relative to the 30-year average of temperatures, we're still cooler in the far west and across the areas of Canada. Not by a lot, but enough to kind of take the edge off the summer heat. Today, we've got the 500 millibar chart looking like this. High over Florida, the low up here in the Pacific Northwest, and generally a zonal flow. And this low is associated with that monsoonal plume coming on up. So basically, that monsoon moisture plume comes up and gets pushed off to the east rather quickly. That's what happens late Saturday into Sunday. As we get into next week, this is for Sunday. Then as we go into next week, we start to see the establishment of the trough in the Pacific Northwest, the high here in the south. What I want you to look at, and this is what we're watching for next week. Don't know if this is going to come to fruition, but you always look at weather charts like this and you look for patterns. Because what we see here with the colors, the brighter, redder, pinker colors show the warmer parts of the atmosphere at 18,000 feet. As you get further north, as you'd expect, you get colder, and you have the contrast between the colder air up here, the warmer air down here. These black lines represent where the winds are going to flow at 18,000 feet. And where you see little dimples, where you see troughs, where you see high pressure ridges, you start to look for patterns. What I see right here is something interesting. What we're seeing right here, that little dimple right here, is part of the tropical, it really has not evolved into a tropical storm, but it has caused a lot of rain along the Gulf Coast. And it is traveling westward because it's caught up in the circulation of this high. Now this is for Sunday. So that little, what you see that dimple is actually a subtropical wave that got started here, and has this gone like this, it's heading westward, which is interesting. Now we'll fast forward here a couple of days beyond Sunday and show you why we're watching it. As we get into Wednesday of next week, see the dimple? There it is again. So basically it will have traveled, believe it or not, from here to here over the course of a week. You might think, well, how could that happen? Well, it happens because the counterclockwise circulation around that high. So we're going to watch this because this system gets caught up around the high like this, and believe it or not, it's going to go all the way around. It could go full circle. That's why the weather's fun to watch. If you pay attention to little patterns like this on forecast charts, you start to look for patterns in the 500 millibar flow. So what we watch here is the spinning motions of the atmosphere, what we call vorticity. So let's focus in a little bit on this for next Wednesday. So this would be Cheyenne Day during Cheyenne Frontier Days. So if it does make it all the way into New Mexico, this little upper level low right here, the air is not only moving counterclockwise aloft, but there's a spinning motion called vorticity. Think of a spinning ice skater when they go up and put their arms together. You just have some spinning motion. And this is going to want to come this way as it gets caught up in the flow around the high. So when we look at the vorticity, which is this shaded area, by Wednesday of next week, you can see that right here, the colors show where the spinning motion of the atmosphere is. If we were to loop this, you can really see what I'm talking about. So I want you to pay attention when this loop starts to this area right here over Louisiana, East Texas. Then follow it. And then you can see there it goes. So watch closely. Moves west, goes northeast and curves around and goes back around that high. Well, why is that important? Well, if we've got a subtropical wave coming through into the Rockies, then moving north, and also watch closely here, you'll see some of that color come up out of Mexico and kind of join it, kind of joining forces right here. Two armies coming together. And then if we look at the subtropical moisture by Wednesday of next week, it's deep. So I highlight this because the middle of next week, if we get these things combined and go together, we'll be producing a lot of thunderstorm activity. And this is where you get extremely heavy rain potential with some of these showers and storms. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but this is why the podcast is fun to do. We're putting a bug in your ear, and let's watch it. That wave may go into Texas and get diverted this way. It may go and get diverted this way. It may not happen, but we're watching it, so stay tuned on Monday. As we take a look at next week's weather, you can see the heat getting going in Missouri, Kansas, Oklahoma, and Arkansas, and Texas here with that high getting established. But what's been really interesting this summer so far is you have not heard on the news about a heat wave in California. Look how cool California is going to be next week. The Pacific Northwest as well. And the way the pattern's unfolding this summer, at least here for another week or 10 days, the temperatures in the far western United States will be below average while the heat will build in the central U.S. Have yourself a great Friday and a good weekend. See you Monday.